This is a funny one. I read this and I'm like, this doesn't sound like it's true. It is in the humor, news, and satire, but I believe it is based upon real events. Let's get into it. Here we go. Man downtown Portland waving machete could use a hug. He could use a hug. You give a guy, a homeless dude that's whacked out on drugs, his mind has been gone for 8-10 years, and he's got a machete. Hug? Probably not. Let's talk about it anyway. Here we go. You've all seen these kind of guys. I've seen them. I was taking a ferry from Bainbridge Island back to Seattle. I got off the ferry and it was dark and it was winter, probably last year or the year before. And I remember falling behind some guy he didn't have a sword. What did he have? Some type of sharp object that I was like, I can't remember what he was carrying, but I'm like, I'm going to walk that away. I'm going to walk away from this guy. And that's what you've got going on here. Let's, let's look at this. That's a straight up machete, right? And that's just this guy, how these guys are running around with machetes, running around with swords, and they don't decapitate more people. I don't know. So keep in mind, that's our image. That's our guy. Man in downtown Portland spotted waving a machete in the air and passionately arguing with a lamppost appears to be in dire need of a hug. This according to multiple witnesses who observed the situation with a mix of concern and understanding. I have concern that man is arguing with a lamppost while whirling a machete around on the streets of Portland. Now, Portland's gotten so used to this. Seattle's gotten so used to this. LA, this is a given. This is an everyday occurrence. San Francisco, everyday occurrence. Some dude is running around with some type of object he probably shouldn't be. And he's out of his mind. He's whacked out of his mind on drugs. And we have a mix of concern and understanding. Oh, yeah. He wasn't really threatening anyone, said local office shop barista Jaden Marks, who watched from a safe distance while sipping an oat milk cortado. It was, my coffee is non-existent. I don't drink coffee. I don't know anything about it. So milk cortado. It was more of a dramatic performance, like a one-man Shakespeare in the park, except the guy was homeless. And he wasn't really threatening anybody, except he did have a weapon in his hands that's like 3 feet long. But, other than that, I mean, it was not really threatening anybody. But he had, it was one-man Shakespeare in the park, but with a blade. He had a blade. That's comforting. I think he needs someone to tell him he's going to be okay. I think he just needs someone to tell him it's going to be okay. That is where misguided compassion comes in. All he needs is a hug and somebody to wrap their arms around him. And as he, sticks it in your stomach and now you've got a perforated stomach. And I just wanted to give him a hug. He looked like he just needed a hug. Then he stabbed me with his machete. Well, what did I deserve that for? These guys are nuts. They're whacked out of their mind on drugs. That is why they are carrying a machete around in a large urban city in North America. We are not talking we're in the jungle of wherever, right? We're not out bushwhacking. This is concrete jungle. That's literally concrete jungle our boy has right here. That's why this story is so funny. So passerbyers, they reported that the man, clad in what could only be described as Portland streetwear, in air quotes, let's say patchwork poncho, cargo shorts, and combat boots with one missing lace, was passionately gesturing with the machete while engaging in what seemed to be a heated debate with an unseen adversary. That is so true. That is so true. They're having a real, they're having a real talk. They're just, yeah. And they're just really animated. They're really getting into it while wielding a sword about. Because they're crazy. They're nuts. They belong in an institution. They belong in jail. They belong in rehab. Some speculated he was arguing with society. Maybe he was. Could have been. While others believed that he might have been debating the merits of single origin coffee versus blends. Important information for coffee drinkers, I believe. I hear that topic all the time. Is it blended? Is it single origin? I have no idea. I don't even really know what that means, nor do I care, because I don't like coffee. He paused at one point and shouted something about kombucha being a government psyop. Said Sarah Dunn, a pedestrian who had stopped to record a TikTok of the scene. I mean, he's not entirely wrong, but the machete part, that was a little concerning. Again, we have great concern that the man who is clearly out of his mind has a weapon and he's just, wielding his sword. He's playing Shakespeare. Authorities eventually arrived on the scene, but seemed reluctant to escalate the situation. At this point, he's just expressing himself, said Officer Mike Sanderson, who opted to maintain a respectful 10-foot buffer zone. That's a good call right there. I mean, 10-foot zone, he can't stab you with his sword there. No, he can't. We don't want to be the ones to suppress his creative energy. Honestly, the dude probably just needs a hug. But we're not signing up for that. Everybody, so it's another, not in my backyard, isn't it? Yeah, he probably just needs a hug, but that whole sword thing, machete, that causes concern. I don't know if it's sharp. I don't know what he's doing with it. I mean, is he cutting up bread with it? What's he got going on there? Who knows, right? Who knows? Anytime you see a homeless person with any type of weapon, give them a very wide berth. Because you just don't know. They are literally out of their mind. And these big blue Democrat-run cities, they just say, you know what? It's okay. Just do your thing. Don't want to, quash your freedom to express yourself. Just go ahead and try not to stab anybody. Keep the decapitations to a minimum. We can't have you taking anybody's heads off. We've got concerns that you're going to take somebody's head off with just a big single swoop, right? Been watching, watch that OJ on the OJ Did It series. OJ, that guy was so guilty. How he got off. I mean, that was a payback for Rodney King, wasn't it? That was just so clearly OJ killed his wife and Ron Goldman. Terrible. What a moron. And then he goes and tries to steal back his own paraphernalia. It was mine. I'm taking it back. Now, you sold it. You sold it, and then you tried to armed robbery style it back. Not going to work great. Several bystanders briefly considered offering the man a free hug, a practice once popular in Portland before the pandemic, but hesitated when he began slicing an invisible enemy out of the air like he was fighting off ghosts. That's accurate description. That's when we decided emotional support should probably come from someone with, body armor. Good call. Admitted local street musician Dax, who had been playing the ukulele nearby. I mean, what self-respecting street in Portland doesn't have a homeless guy whacked out on drugs, playing with the sword, and a local street musician, Dax, who's got his, every dollar helps sign, who had been playing the ukulele nearby. The ukulele, who doesn't want to hear the ukulele in Portland? That's fantastic. As of the latest report, the man had sheathed the machete into what appeared to be a handmade scabbard constructed from duct tape and repurposed vegan leather belt. Oh, this story is good. This is good. This is some descriptive stuff. We got duct tape. We got a vegan leather belt. We got a handmade scabbard. He then wandered off towards the waterfront, muttering something about big timber and needing to touch grass. What are we talking about here? Who knows, right? That is literally what these people talk about while they're walking up and down the streets, muttering to themselves, screaming at the trees, screaming at the clouds, maybe not wearing a shirt, definitely not wearing shoes. Hands are just grubby and they've just got fentanyl through the fingernails. Oh, it's just disgusting. They don't know the difference And then you've got all these politicians that want to clean the area up, but they've been handed this problem because these are people and people just don't go away. And you can't just sweep them under the carpet because they and their swords do not go quietly into the night. So you either got to involuntarily put them in jail. They committed a crime. Okay. Not really doing that. Put them in a mental institution. Get them the help that they need. All right. He's on drugs. You know what? If you want services, if you want housing, if you want help with this and this and this, getting back on your feet, you need to get off the dope. You got to get off that dope. Got to do it. Got to do it. And to keep people alive, involuntarily commit them to detox, involuntarily commit them to rehab. I mean, it's a matter of life or death, right? Especially with fentanyl involved. So many of these people are smoking fentanyl. Fetty is the drug of choice because it's cheaper. It's as cheap as 50 cents a pill now. 50 cents a pill. Used to be 40 or 50 bucks a pill. Yeah. And the cartels started flooding that southern border, right? Yeah. Portland residents, known for their patience with the eccentric, collectively agreed that while machete waving is typically frowned upon, okay, all right, I agree with that. What this man really needed wasn't jail time, but maybe a warm meal, a nap, and a friend who listens. And he's just going to get back on his feet. He's going to put his sword down. He's going to go wash his hands. He's going to take his hood off. He's going to go apply at McDonald's. He's going to go apply for housing. He's going to throw that crack pipe away. And he's just going to ride off into the distance of reality because he got that warm meal, that nap, and a friend who listens. That's going to make his life just clear sailing. And the reason I chose to read this story is because, number one, it's humorous. Number two, it's really well written. And number three, it's so ridiculous that it really, really emphasizes all the points in a not very nice way without jamming it down your throat, that having people on the streets with a machete is a good idea. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. That guy with the sword, he's fine. He's good. And, you know, I talk about swords and machetes fairly often. And people always say, oh, that doesn't happen, Sean. No, it does. It does. It happens all the time. Somebody's running around with some damn thing. And how about the 10 stabbings we had in 37 hours at 12th and Jackson in the International District in Seattle? What was that? Last month? Month before? Just whacked out homeless dude. 2 separate days, 37-hour time period. Came out, stabbed 5 people, stabbed another 5 later. Jeremy Harris was there to capture, the guys getting stuck in the back with a knife and the blade popping off and breaking in some guy's back. That's the reality. Those folks, they're not going to benefit from a warm meal, a nap, and a friend who listens. I mean, who doesn't want that in their life? But when you're so whacked out that you make the conscious decision to just run around the streets and stab people, you're probably on a level that's little beyond the warm meal, the nap, and a friend who listens. You're needing deep, deep psychiatric help at the very least, and probably a massive amount of medication. And that is just to keep you from being an absolute just keeping you above board as far as society do's and don'ts. One of the things typically frowned upon in society is waving a sword around, a machete around, a knife around. And that's why it's so wild that you can have a sword, you can have a machete, and nobody seems to bat an eye because they're like, look at the guy practices Shakespeare. You're like, no. I'm not getting anywhere close to that individual. That guy's nuts. He's psycho. But then all these misguided Democrats have this concept of, well, if he just got a hug, he'd be fine. Nah, these people need a lot of help. A lot of help. And that's why this story, kind of poking fun at, how this goes and how we view it, is, I thought it was really well written. So, that's what we got on this one. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you for supporting the channel. And I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.